If you are a bull or if you are holding crypto, this video is for you. I've got some things that I would hope would get you a little bit excited or maybe even a lot excited because something significant has happened that the last time this happened, no, not just the last time this happened, like every time this happens, we see a rotation to crypto. And I think smart money already anticipated this. And so what are we looking at? We're looking at Bitcoin around $120,000. And we did kiss $120,000. Cool, great. You know, are we going to hit a new all-time high? Most likely. Are we going to hit a new all-time high in October? Maybe not this week, maybe next week. Most likely, yes. For Bitcoin, for Ethereum, for the total 2, total 3, all of that, that is most likely what we are going to see next. But it's not just based off of crypto. It's not at all. There is something significant that has happened on October 2nd, at least, that should and most likely, very likely will signal a rotation from precious metals to crypto. In particular, Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to lead the charge, and then we see ETH hit a new all-time high and go into price discovery, and then we see that sweet rotation to other altcoins that is on the table. All right? So what happened? Let's look at the gold chart. I think that this was the peak for gold, whatever it got up to. What is that? It got up to almost $3,900, okay? 4,000 is too round of a number. $3,900, almost $3,900 makes sense. But why do I think that? Is it because of something in and of itself in the chart with gold that I'm seeing? No, actually, it's silver. All right, silver is scorching hot. People are really excited about silver. And right now, listen, I love silver. And my background with silver, before I even heard of Bitcoin, that was my baptism into euphoria. I'll talk about that in a second. But silver has yesterday, completed, whatever you want to call it, visited a peak, a 45-year cup and handle moment. The idea that silver from here would just rip through here, rip through $50 as if it's nothing, rip through $48 as if it's nothing, that's utter nonsense. There's just no way. We're talking about 46 years of resistance built up. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this take another year to break through. Who knows? Maybe this time's different because the dollar's even more broken than it was in 2011 or in 1982. Maybe this time's different, but I don't think it is. And trust me, I think we're going to see silver at like $200, $300 with this decade, an ounce of silver. So this right here is huge because why? Well, let's go back to gold. Remember earlier this year, gold was all the rage. Everything was hemorrhaging. Stocks and crypto were hemorrhaging. Early 2025, gold went from $2,500 all the way up to $3,500, which for gold is massive because gold is an incredibly slow mover. It went up to $3,500, and then when did it peak? It peaked on April 21st, 2025, 2 weeks after the stock and crypto market bottomed out. April 7th, April 21st, gold peaked, and then it entered this consolidation phase, very bullish, a bull flag consolidation, bullish pennant at least, consolidation phase, and then put in its another leg higher, did a short squeeze in my opinion. And what happened after we saw gold do its thing here? Well, that's when Bitcoin ripped. And so why not? Let's pull up a Bitcoin chart. And what am I looking at here? I'm looking at the Bitcoin chart, but it's on the monthly. So let's change that to the daily. And let me clean this up a little bit. All right. We're cooking here, baby. So Bitcoin, April 21st, Bitcoin was the moment that gold peaked. Bitcoin was $84,000. It was just kind of ranging there at $84,000. The day of the peak, Bitcoin ripped. It was immediate. It ripped and rallied all the way up to $112,000 and then consolidated for a little bit and then rallied again, got up to $124,000. So if I'm right about this, if I am right about this being the peak for gold, and now I'm not saying gold's going to dump down to $2,500 or something, although I could see that at some point. If that's what's in play right now, if this was the peak for gold, which I've already laid out, a very compelling reason. I mean, gold and silver, they are somewhat correlated. So if that was the peak for gold, then we are in the midst of Bitcoin playing a massive game of catch up, not the condiment, but of catching up. All right, so a few things that I want to show you, a little bit of alpha from X. All right, first we have from the Kobisi letter. They're kind of grifters, but it's okay. The Kobisi letter, silver prices have never ended higher after this. Daily RSI on silver has officially exceeded 82 for the first time since 2020. This has only happened 5 times since 1987, and silver ended lower 9 months later in 100% of cases. Now, okay, yes, this is different. The funny money environment that we exist in right now is different than any of these other times, except for maybe August 7th of 2020. But I would not be surprised at all if 9 months from now, silver was lower than where it is now. So keep that in mind. You got to keep that in mind. When silver RSI gets this high, that is a good time to just, if you've been making some gains off of silver, and do I say silver miners? I don't want to say silver miners because I'm holding my silver miners for the long haul. But, if you just want to hold on to your silver, I have plenty of silver. I'm just going to hold, okay? But if you were trading silver and you want to rotate out of it, now is not a bad time. And so that's a good sign for a transition, a rotation to Bitcoin and to crypto. JP Morgan from Joe Consorti here says Bitcoin is undervalued relative to gold on a volatility adjusted basis, implying a 42% rise in Bitcoin for a fair value of $165,000. Bitcoin's turn in the debasement trade is here. So all of this, guys, I mean, I know you look at a lot of these charts and you're looking at their USD valuations and you're thinking this is unsustainable. It's a massive bubble. No, we are in the middle of the of a massive debasement of our currencies that started in 2020 and is continuing. So when I see an ounce of gold, I see 1 ounce of gold equals 1 ounce of gold. And I see it at $3,800. That's a damning statement of the present state of the US dollar. You got to measure this stuff in gold to understand where we are and where we're going. All right, so but for Bitcoin is now, it's lagged behind gold, and now most likely it's going to catch up. What does that look like? Well, let's not get, all right, to the moon, $168,000 tomorrow. But, you can see plenty of times where Bitcoin lagged behind gold because it was the bear market. And then times when Bitcoin rushed way ahead of gold, like early 2024, and gold caught up, in terms of just in the debasement scale. Well, now gold is way ahead of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is probably going to catch up. I've talked about this, and I'm going to look at the Ethereum and XRP charts in a minute here. But I've talked about this in terms of here is a worst case scenario. This chart right here is Bitcoin priced in gold. And you can see, even though Bitcoin continued to put higher highs in its US dollar valuation, I mean, 108 in December, that was the most recent peak in Bitcoin's price in gold. We have not gone higher than that, Bitcoin valued in gold. Since then, 109 did put in a higher high in the US dollar valuation, did not in the price of gold. And then 124 got rejected right at this trend line. Higher high in Bitcoin's US dollar price, but a lower high in terms of gold. So worst case scenario for me right now, looking at these charts and just looking at the state of the market in October, would be another move up to this trend line and then a rejection there. which would, if gold were to stay the same, that would put Bitcoin at $138,000. If, that was the peak and gold were to go down a couple $1,000, not a couple $100, excuse me, a couple $100, then sure, yeah, that would maybe be 135, 133. I'm going to be paying attention to that. But like I said, that's a worst case scenario. I could see this is just a trend line that I drew recently, but there's lots of other possibilities, including what if we did something like this? What if we did a back test of this trend line? That would be a more aggressive move up. That would fit more with $165,000 Bitcoin. 2.618 retrace from the previous cycle top to the bear market bottom is $155,000. So we're 165. That's somewhere between that 2.618 and 3.618. That makes sense to me. That makes sense. So Bitcoin. Now I do want to say, I think that maybe, you never know in October, but maybe we're getting a little overextended here. And in particular, I'm looking at the Bollinger Bands and seeing that we are right at this moment at the upper end of the Bollinger Band level on the daily chart. It would make sense to me if there was a little bit of a rejection there, maybe going down. I made a short form video talking about this already, maybe going down to 116,000 or so. You never know. I would not be longing Bitcoin right now. I would not be FOMOing. I would not be aping into really any cryptocurrency right at this moment. I'd wait a little bit. Ethereum's a little bit ahead of my projections here, which I'm not going to complain about. So Ethereum looks scorching hot, but same deal. Well, let me pull up the Bollingers. I didn't even look at the Bollingers. Yeah, plenty of room to go on the Bollingers on the daily. But if Bitcoin does get rejected on the upper limit of this Bollinger Band here, then Ethereum is probably going to do something similar. That where it doesn't get rejected on Bollingers, but it slows down a little bit. Maybe chops between $4,400 and $4,500. If Bitcoin were to go to 116, maybe a back test of 4,264 or something like that. XRP is trying to break through some resistance here. And if I were to zoom in maybe on the 4-hour chart, you could see a little bit of a struggle at this trend line here. Maybe now we're going to break through, maybe back test. And then who knows? I tend to think that XRP will still underperform a little bit short term and then absolutely blow your mind later on. So short term, like if we're talking about, it's Friday, if we're talking about the next few days, I don't have super high expectations for Bitcoin. If we're talking about this month and for Ethereum and XRP, if we're talking about this month though, oh boy. Yeah, things are looking tasty. Sorry, I'm going to apologize for that for a second because when I said when the word tasty came out of my mouth, that was a little too zesty, a little too like, oh, that was kind of weird. And so I just decided to make it weirder. So one more thing from Benjamin Cohen. All right. Again, I don't watch any of his videos. And there's been times that I've disagreed with Benjamin Cohen, but Benjamin Cohen's been a good friend to all of us this cycle. And here's what he says. This blueprint is generally following while August was red and September was green. August marked the local top and September marked the local bottom. Then Bitcoin usually goes up in Q4 in the cycle top. So I think the cycle top for Bitcoin is before end of the year. Now, I strongly disagree with that last sentence. I do not believe the cycle top for Bitcoin is before the end of the year. I think the cycle top for Bitcoin is 2027. And I mean, if he were to just even think about, the cycle top for Bitcoin previous cycle was in March of 2024 before the halving. So I think 2027. So sure, maybe we'll reach a local top in 2025, excuse me. And, maybe it is $155,000, $165,000 Bitcoin, something like that. And then after that, I wouldn't quite be expecting the bear market that a lot of people who are married to the 4-year halving cycle that they would be expecting. We'll see. I mean, let's just say things were to go crazy, like absolutely crazy for Bitcoin fourth quarter, then sure, maybe this time's not different. I think this time's very different though. I mean, especially given where altcoins are, especially with the altcoins. You think about the altcoins. This time is actually quite different. Because in 2021 and in 2017, even before the blow off top, altcoins did amazingly well. So I'm sticking with this time's different in some regards. All right. So don't be married to any one idea. Always be flexible. That's how I've won this cycle. All right. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will certainly be seeing you in another video. Peace.